Alright, this is the video. It's going to show you how to draw the Year 9 stool. To find all this information, you are going to find it on the Corpus Christi Timber website. If you click on Year 9 Timber, see Task 2 Stool, click on that, and that will take you to the page with all the material, etc. that you need to be able to draw it. Obviously we're going to make that in class. We might have made it already. So A-frame stool, two A-frames on either side, connected with some mortise and tenons in the middle. Assessment notifications underneath, and then you'll find some plans. So flick back to the home page, you'll see a pictorial. So a pictorial is simply a picture-like drawing with shadows. Second page is an orthogonal drawing, which is your standard top view, front view and side view. And in this instance you can see a detail of the mortise and tenon joint there. And then the final page you can see an exploded view, so there are all the bits, along with a materials list or cutting list. So we're going to refer back to these plans as we draw the stool. Alright, so I'm going to flick back across here. I'm going to open up SketchUp. So this video is obviously to do with SketchUp that you should have on your laptop. You can use SketchUp for schools, but ideally, SketchUp on your computer, that's ideal. Once it opens, you should see the template window, and we're looking for woodworking millimeters. Mine's here because I use it often. However, if you can't see it, just click on More Templates and scroll down to where it says woodworking millimeters. We don't want to be working in inches because that's American. So in Australia, we're dealing with millimeters. Click on the little heart icon because that's something you'll definitely come back to along the way. All right. So first thing we're going to draw is this part, so the leg of the A-frame. So if I go back and call it an A-frame, it looks like a capital A. So that's the first thing we're going to be drawing. I'm going to flick through the final page here and have a look at the measurements. So the leg is the first part we're going to draw. It is 600 long, so that is from top to bottom, 600 millimeters, 70 wide, 18mm thick across here. So to draw that, we're going to pick up the rectangle tool from the toolbar at the top. If you can't see a rectangle, or to change tools in SketchUp, you've got to click on the little arrow next to it. So if we come up to drawing a circle or something else, you can see a variety of tools. So it has a drop down arrow. There's a range of other things that we can use. Anyway, I'm going to choose the arrow, the rectangle, and we're going to click down, drag, and click again, and that finishes that. Now what you'll notice is without clicking again, the dimensions of what I've just drawn come up in this bottom right hand corner here. So this rectangle I've drawn is 385.8 millimeters. Wide, I'm guessing that's the first one, and 476.7 millimeters long. So without clicking anything, I can just type in what I need. Okay, so what I'm going to type in is 70, 600. So without pressing enter yet, 70 wide, 600 long. That's actually wrong, isn't it? It needs to be 70 wide, 18 thickness, because I'm actually drawing the base of this leg before I extrude it up. So it needs to be 70 wide here by 18. I'm going to change that. I'm going to type in 18, 70. So it's not a time sign. Don't use an X. It's 18, 70. If I press enter, it's going to be real small. I'm going to click on the arrow at the top, and then on the mouse pad on your laptop, if you use two fingers to I'm going to click on the open space there. In this version of SketchUp, I use the trackpad, put 2 fingers on the trackpad and slide up, and that slides in, zooms in to the piece I've just drawn. If I use 2 fingers and slide down on the trackpad, it zooms out. Now it will zoom out or zoom in wherever that mouse pointer is. So if I put the mouse pointer on this corner and put 2 fingers and slide up on the trackpad, it will zoom into close enough to that corner. If the mouse pointer is hovering over this corner, and I use 2 fingers to go up, it will zoom in on that corner. So it's important wherever your mouse pointer is positioned on the page, that will zoom in. Alright, so just to repeat that process, remember you can rewind this video at any point if you find anything confusing. I try and take my time, so people who understand it can fast forward and go at their own pace, and if you are having trouble and need to go slower and repeat things, you can do that as well. So, to draw the base of this leg, pick up the rectangle tool, click once at the origin there, drag, click again to finish. Now, I don't have to actually physically come down and click on this dimension box. Okay, so what will happen is if I click again here, open space, it's starting to draw a new rectangle and new rectangle. So once I click again to draw new rectangles, the dimensions will disappear for the previous one. So it's important that you do one step at a time. So click, drag, click to finish, and just start typing. So I'm going to type 18,70 and press enter. That will do the dimensions of that rectangle. Alright. Next one, I'm going to choose this one, a common tool. It's called the push-pull tool. Next to the rectangle up there in the toolbar. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so I can see what I'm doing. Basically, I'm going to select that. I'm going to click once, pull in the general direction, click, and type in 600, because that's how tall our leg is, and press enter. And there we have, I'm going to click on this tool here, which is the orbit tool. To have a look at that leg, you can kind of click and hold down on the trackpad and that orbit tool. You can see your leg there. Alright, so that's our start of the leg. Now, obviously, if you look at our A-frame over here, I'm going to go back to the plans. It's on an angle. And that angle, if I can remember correctly, is 5 degrees. I'm going to try that out, make sure that works. So what we're going to do is grab the protractor tool. Now the protractor tool isn't part of your standard tool set here. So what we're going to do is click on View, highlight over Tool Palettes and select Large Tool Set. And that will bring up a dialog box here on the left, which you can drag around with a whole bunch of other tools which you can use. So in this instance, we're going to put an angle on the top and bottom of this leg, as you can see here and here. So firstly, what we're going to do is get the protractor up the top of this leg, so zoom in a little bit. Now you see how I move the mouse pointer a little bit and it changes. So we want to make sure that this protractor is on this plane, we call it, on that surface of that leg. So I'm going to click on that endpoint, and then we're going to drag it to this endpoint and click again, and then drag that down and click again. And as you can see at the bottom it says, well, that's 12 degrees. So I'm going to change that to 5. Press enter. And what that does, it gives us a little guideline to put on here at the top of this leg. What we're going to do with that is pick up the pencil tool. Just going to drop that down a little bit here. I'm going to pick up that pencil tool, click on the end along that guideline to the other side and click again so we get a line. Now, what we're going to do now, pick up the push-pull tool, highlight over this top part here, click, and drag to the back until it hits that offset limit to 18 millimeters. What that means is it's offset from that starting plane or the front surface and is offset to the back, which means 18 millimeters is the thickness of that timber. So we click again and that part disappears. Click on the mouse pointer and click on that dimension line, which we did with the protractor, and press delete. We don't need that anymore. Now we're going to do the same thing at the bottom. Now it's important you start from the right corner. So we're going to pick up the protractor tool again. Remember, you can rewind this at any time to check. I'm going to pick up on the bottom left corner this time. Click. Move to the right hand corner and click again. And then we're going to move up a random amount. And then simply in this bottom dialog box, we're going to click 5, press enter. That's our 5 degrees. And then that's our guideline, as we call it. Zoom in a little bit. I'll draw a line from that corner. Click once, drag, and click to finish. And then pick up the push-pull tool. Just going to orbit here, so pick up the orbit tool so we can see what we're doing. Pick up this push-pull tool. Select that bit we want to get rid of. Click. Drag to the back to that offset limit and click again and it disappears. After that, mouse pointer, pick that up, click on the dimension line, the guideline, sorry, and press delete. Alright, so orbit tool, I'm going to pick up. So what we need to do now is that is our leg finished with our top and bottom with a 5 degree cut on top and bottom. What we need to do now, we need to actually, obviously with the stool, look at this A-frame, it's not standing directly upright or vertical, it's got that slight tilt over, which is at 5 degrees, hence why we took 5 degrees off the top and the bottom. So, what we're going to do is move this over 5 degrees or tilt it over to be our left side of our A-frame. To do that, firstly you've got to make this leg a component. So we're going to get the mouse pointer. You're going to highlight that component, so just click and hold down, drag over the whole thing and press and then release, sorry. So, once you do that, you can see that the whole leg is highlighted. Make sure every part of that leg is highlighted. We are going to 2-finger click on the trackpad, which brings up a dialog menu like this, and we're going to select Make Component. I'm going to call that the leg. At the top, definition. You don't need to worry about any of this stuff, just make sure you call it the right thing. And then press Create. What that allows us to do now is to drag that drawing around as if it is its own component, which you can't do if you don't do that. So, to move this over, not to move it over, to rotate it, we're going to pick up this Move tool. So there is a rotate tool, but I like using the move tool because the move tool turns into a rotate tool when you hover over part of that. So at the moment when I hover over that, you'll notice that 4 crosses come up, 4 plus signs, one at the top, 2 in the middle here and 1 at the bottom. When I highlight over those crosses, the move tool turns into a rotate tool. So I find that this rotate tool in the title bar is kind of redundant, meaning useless because the move tool will turn into the rotate tool. Alright, we're going to hover over that top plus sign, going to click, I'm going to move to the right, and you can see down the bottom, basically we're starting at 90 degrees, and as I move over you can see those angles are changing. So if I typed in 5, it's going to end up down here somewhere, which is not ideal. So if we're starting at 90 and moving in that negative direction, we want to end up at 85 degrees. So I'm going to click and type in 85. And then we're going to basically, what do I do then? That always, this is a habit, but a good one to get into is clicking the mouse pointer and clicking into mid-air. What that does is deselect anything that might be happening here with this piece. Right, and there we have our first part of the A-frame, which is the leg on the left. Right, now that's a component, very good. What we need is a leg going on the other side. So what we can simply do, this is the beauty of SketchUp, click on the mouse pointer, click on that component, press on Command C, which is your standard copy command, or you can go edit copy, but you can see if we just press Command C, and then we're going to press Command V for paste. And there you have a whole nother leg. So the beauty of SketchUp is the fact that we don't have to keep drawing this leg all the time. Alright, but obviously we need this to be an A-frame, and that leg is still going the same way. So, a few ways we can do that. I'm going to rotate around to the top, and we're going to simply pick up the move tool, rotate that around so it does in fact face the right direction. Okay, so that was the move tool on top, on the top plane, moving it around 180 degrees. And then what we need to do, because this is 5 degrees to the right from the top, pick up that move tool, highlight over the plus sign at the top, that's a pivot point I guess, click, I'm going to move it over to 95 degrees, so basically that means 5 degrees to the left of vertical. So I'm going to click and press 95 and enter. And there we have our two legs, flat on the bottom, flat on the top, and spread apart. So we've obviously got to draw our, reference the plans, we've got to draw this top rail and this base rail. Okay, so that's our two legs. So referencing the cutting list now, see the top rail has a total length of 100, 70 wide, 18 thick, so all these pieces of timber, everything here is 70 wide and 18 thick, so it's all the same. But our top rail is 100 millimeters, so that's from here to here at the bottom, total length. Our base rail is the one here, and that is 175 millimeters. So, first one, going to draw a top rail at 100 millimeters long. So, first things first, going to draw a rectangle on the bottom plane, on the base plane. Call that the horizontal plane for technical considerations there, but we're going to draw a rectangle. So click, and that is going to be 18 by 100. Type that in at the bottom, press enter. Then we're going to pick up the push-pull tool, and give that some thickness, which is 70, a width of 70, so I'm going to drag that up, click to finish, and type 70. Mouse pointer, click in mid-air to deselect it. Okay, I'm going to zoom in on that piece, orbit around so we're looking at the front face. Now essentially we need to put a 5-degree line here and a 5-degree line here to fit in snug with this A-frame. So we're going to repeat this process with a protractor that I did before. So I may start to move a little bit quicker, and you can rewind to hear the slower explanation. So protractor, click at the base, move to the top corner and click again, move over, type 5 and press enter. I'm going to do the same thing on the right here. So click at the bottom, move to the top, click again, move to the left, any distance doesn't matter, click again, and then hit the 5 button and press enter. Alright, now they're just guidelines. What we now do is pick up the pencil tool and actually draw that detail on. So click at the bottom, drag, click to finish. Same thing here, click, drag to the top, click to finish. Alright, now we're going to orbit around so I can see on the side. We want to obviously get rid of these bits here, so I'm going to use push-pull. Highlight that part here, click, drag to the back. So it will either say on face or it will say offset limit, either or. Click again to finish. Grab the push-pull tool on the left-hand side here, click, drag to the back, click again to finish. Alright, orbit. Pick up the mouse pointer tool, click on that guideline, it will turn blue, and press delete. Click on that guideline and delete. Now, I want to show you this because if I tried to move this around now without making it a component, so I've just drawn that and I haven't made a component. If I use this move tool, basically it's just going to move and do this kind of stuff, just like a free spirit, I guess, moving around doing what it wants. So if you find yourself doing that, it means you haven't made a component yet. So click up the mouse pointer, click and drag, highlight the entire piece, 2-finger click on the trackpad, and you want to select make component, and we're calling that top rail. Press enter for create. You see that changes now, so when I click on midair, the difference now is when I click on it, it selects it as a component. It has this blue line around it. That's how you know you're working with components as opposed to working with a freeform object. Now, I'm going to zoom out here. What we want to do, zoom in and out so we can see it. We like using point to point in SketchUp, and what that means is we want to move this top rail obviously to meet up here. We call it point to point because I want to grab the move tool. I'm going to come down to the point. So if I just select anywhere on this, sorry I'm zooming in and out here, I hope that doesn't freak you out. If I just select anywhere here, I can move that around, but it's not really matching up. Where I clicked on that, I can't get it to go where I want. So if I just do that, if I click on the actual top corner there, so click, start moving around, I want that to marry up with this top corner. So when I drag it and hit that corner, I've dragged that point of the top rail to that point on the top of that left leg. Now, do the same thing over here. We're going to drag this right leg. It says corner of leg. We're going to drag that corner to that corner of the top of the A-frame. Just like that. Alright, the next part of this video is going to be the base rail, but we need to draw the base rail a little bit differently, and the reason for that is the base rail in the cutting list, if I go over to the plans, is 175 millimeters long. That's here. Now that's close, but it's not quite close enough. In terms of reality, if we draw that at 175, we'll never get it in the right spot. Just take my word for it. So we're going to do this slightly differently. What we're going to do is pick up the tape measure tool. I'll zoom in a little bit here. The tape measure tool is here. And what we're going to do is we'll reference our plans. Basically, the base rail, as you can see, is 100 millimeters from the bottom. So this length here is 100 millimeters. We have 175 in here. So first thing, we're going to create a few guidelines with the tape measure. I'm going to go 100 millimeters up. And the way we do that is we want to go in the middle of the, well, not in the middle, but somewhere on the bottom of this leg that's not the corner. So it's important it's not the corner. Somewhere else here, the bottom of this leg, we're going to click, drag up, and make sure it brings that blue arrow up. And click again, type in 100. So 100, press enter. It's given us a guideline that's 100 millimeters up from the base of that A-frame. And what we're going to do now is from that line, we want to create a line, another guideline that's 70 millimeters above that. The reason that is because that's the thickness of this base rail, much the same as all the others. So from that guideline, I'm going to click, and we're going to go directly up again. Make sure you can see that blue arrow. Type in, click off it and press 70. Enter. So what we have now is guidelines to be able to draw our base rail. Zoom in a little bit here. And the reason we didn't draw it at 175 will come to fruition now once I draw this line. So pick the pencil tool up, click on the left-hand bottom part of that guideline, drag across, click to finish, and you can see that has come up. If you look at that dialog box at the bottom, it's 173.8. So we're close in terms of 175, but it's just not quite there, so that's why we're doing it this way. So you don't need to click again with the pencil. We're just going to click and go to the top of that guideline along that right side of the A-frame or leg. Drag along to the left, click, and then complete that rectangle by going back to where we started. And you'll see that now fills in. I'm going to get rid of those guidelines now. As soon as we're done with guidelines, I like to delete them. Otherwise, we end up with guidelines all over the page. So use the mouse pointer to click on those guidelines and press delete. And what we're going to do is give that, so that's just a 2D shape. We obviously need to make that 3D, so I'm going to use that push-pull tool. Select the front face, push back. And what we can actually do, there's two ways we can use the push-pull tool. We can push-pull forever and then just type in 18 because that's the thickness of this timber. Or we can, I'll just press Command Z to undo that. What we can do is push-pull and reference the leg. So instead of typing in, what we can actually do is reference this. So when I hover over that line, which is the back of the leg, you can see that the width of this timber has automatically snapped to the back of that leg. So two ways you can use push-pull. It really is kind of individual preference. Now, last thing to do is obviously make this base rail a component, because if I try and move it, do other things, it does strange stuff like that. So, mouse pointer, I'm going to highlight over that base rail. Because these legs are components, it doesn't pick up any of that. And 2-finger click, make component, And then we're going to go, we're going to all that base rail. A bit of a mind blank there. Base rail, enter, and we have components. Now, pretty close now to finishing this A-frame. There's one more technical part that we need to finish, and that is doing this part, putting some mortise and tenons in. Really important part, or really important detail of this drawing. So, to do mortise and tenons, we're going to use this tape measure tool. And we are going to make these legs, essentially what we're going to do here is we're going to make these unique. What I'll show you is I will click on this component. If I want to edit this component, I've got to double click on it. So at the moment I've clicked once and you can see a blue line. If I double click on it, it changes, and now I can actually edit individual bits of this component. If I just start drawing on top of this, if I draw a rectangle on top of this leg now, and it's not selected, the component, I can't push pull. I can't actually put a hole in this leg because it's not selected. It's just drawing on the surface of the leg, if that makes sense. It's not actually doing anything to the leg. I can't put a hole in it. So if I want to be able to put a hole in it, to create a mortise and tenon joint, we need to actually select it, double click it, and now, just show I haven't put any measurements, I'm just going to show you the principles here. Now when I draw a rectangle on that leg and use the push-pull tool, it's actually putting a hole in the leg, as opposed to before where it was just drawing another shape. So that's important. I'm just going to undo all that. Alright. Now, I need to make this leg unique. I think it already is unique, isn't it? Must be. If I edit this one, sorry, thinking out loud here. What we're going to do first of all is the mortise and tenon is going to be 10 millimeters up from the base. So I'm just kind of shuffling around so I can see this properly. What we want to do is create a guideline that goes up along here on the angle. So to do that, we're going to get the protractor. Sorry, thinker on the run there, massive mind blank. Pick up the protractor, start from that corner of the leg, over here. I'm going to click again because that's horizontal, but we need to be able to go up 5 degrees and put this on the angle. Very important. Click again, click 5, and that will go on the angle of 5 degrees. Same thing at this top left hand corner. I'm going to click. It will automatically go horizontal. So click again. And just move that up, and SketchUp's being intuitive now. It's thinking, I bet you're going to do 5 degrees. But we're going to type 5 and press enter anyway. Okay, so what that does is gives us scope to be able to put our mortise and tenon joint in. Alright, so there's a lot of technicality behind this. You're probably just going to have to understand some of these dimensions here. So we're going to go 10 mil up from this dimension, this guideline. So we are going to get the tape measure tool in this instance. From this guideline here, I'm going to click, and we're going to go up 10 mil. Type in 10, press enter. from this guideline that we drew on the 5 degrees, I'm going to click, drag down 10 millimeters. And again, SketchUp's been intuitive, saying I bet you're going to do that at 10. Okay, so this gives us the base and the top of our mortise and tenon, where we're going to put our rails in. Now we need to find the middle, and our mortise and tenons are going to be 10 millimeters wide. So, a bit of maths here. This leg is 70 millimeters wide. So from here to here is 70. Then to get to the middle is going to be 35. If we want a 10 mil gap in the middle, instead of coming across 35, if I was to do this, come across 35, that would find the middle. That's no good for us. We want to find 5 millimeters this way and 5 millimeters to the left. So we end up with 10 millimeters total. So what that means, delete that guideline, is essentially with the tape measure, I'm going to come from the right hand side of this leg, 30 millimeters, type 30. From the left hand side, come back in towards the middle, click and type 30. So now, after all of that, we have scope to be able to put our mortise and tenon in. So, as you can see, I haven't edited this leg yet. I've just been putting guidelines on top. So now to edit this, I need to actually double click on there. And then I'll draw on top of those guidelines. So really important that you've double clicked into the component. Right, use the pencil tool to trace around those guidelines in the middle. And then we're going to use the push-pull tool. So we're going to click on that area. I'm going to push it back. So just start pushing back, click, and then type in 10. Enter. Pick up the mouse pointer, click in open space. There's a lot of lines, a lot of stuff going on here, but that is okay. I'm just going to double check that it has. So what's happened here is, because this component is the same, because I've drawn the mortise and tenon here, it's copied it onto the other leg because I didn't make it unique. So that's a lesson for me. So importantly, what we need to do to fix that up, and we'll fix it up in future as well, is click on the leg, and we need to basically 2-finger click and press make unique. And what that does is make this leg unique from this one. So what SketchUp does is in component editing, because these two components are the same component, essentially the leg for the stool, because I didn't make it unique, whatever edit I do on this leg, it's going to reflect on any other leg that I draw. So to stop SketchUp doing that, we need to basically click on each leg, 2-finger click, and press make unique. Okay, it's not letting me on this one because I made the other one unique. Okay, so they'll be unique now. So what we can do is flip around to make this mortise and tenon go away. We're basically going to pick up the mouse pointer, click on the leg, double click, pick up the push-pull tool, select the back of that mortise and tenon, click on it and bring it back out. And we can reference that surface by clicking on that edge. Alright, now that that surface is there, you can still see a rectangle. Pick up the mouse pointer, highlight that object, that shape, and press delete. It gets us back to a smooth surface. So what you'll find now is when we spin around, this mortise and tenon is still there because we made that leg unique. So the edit we made on this leg here hasn't affected the other one. Alright, now effectively, we're going to have to do this 4 times. 1 mortise and tenon there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 here. It's good practice on something that is fairly technical for Year 9 woodwork, but it's okay. Seems like a bit of a challenge, so pick up those guidelines. And what do they say? Practice makes perfect. So let's repeat the same thing over on this side in just reverse order, I guess. Not reverse order, but in reverse angles. So protractor, we want a 5-degree angle. So I'm going to go left hand, bring it across, click again, go up 5 degrees, click on here, right hand side click and go up 5 degrees. Pick up the tape measure tool. I want to go 10 mil above. So 10, enter. 10, enter. And remember the measurement from the edge was 30 in. And from the right hand side, click, move across, click, and type in 30. Alright, now, again, in order to edit the leg, we need to double click into it, make sure it's editable. Not edible, editable. Pick up the rectangle tool and we're quite simply going to draw a rectangle on there in the middle of those guidelines and use the push-pull tool. Click and push back, click again and type in 10. Enter. Good. Click into mid-air to deselect the component and then we can click on these guidelines and press delete. In most SketchUp drawings, being able to do guidelines is really, really important. That gives us some mortise and tenon. So the reason we've done this 5 degrees, when we put this rail on, the rail follows the profile of that leg. Okay, so it's the same process up the top here. Do it slightly differently. With the guidelines, I'm going to, again, get the protractor. Start on this inside, draw a horizontal line, and then bring it up that 5 degrees. However, and then from the bottom, I'm going to pick up the tape measure tool, come up 10 millimeters. However, this time, because we're kind of working in no man's land up here, instead of drawing another another guideline at 5 degrees at the top here, I know that my mortise and tenon needs to be 50 millimeters high. So I'm going to get the tape measure, click on this guideline, and bring it up 50 millimeters. So type in 50 and enter. So essentially, if I just click on here just to show you, that is going to be 10 millimeters, that gap. 10.3, close enough, eh? Alright. Same thing to find the middle, we need to go from the right with the tape measure and come across 30. And the same thing from the left. 30 millimeters, type that and press enter. Orbit around so we can see it. Make sure we pick up the mouse pointer, double click on the leg so we're editing it. Get the rectangle tool, look on the top corner of that rectangle, draw the rectangle using those guidelines, and then the push-pull tool. Push back and type in 10. Enter. Pick up the mouse pointer, click in the open air there to deselect the leg and get rid of those guidelines. Just thinking we could have kept those guidelines for from the bottom ones for this 30mm, but that's okay. You can draw them again. Alright, last one. The beauty of this, once you draw one A-frame, we can copy and paste it for the other side. We don't have to draw it all again. So, protractor. Make sure you're on that surface of the leg in that corner. Click. Go across to the right on the horizontal. Click. And then up. Click again and press 5, enter. Now I'm going to pick up the tape measure tool. From that line we're going to go click, press, drag up and type in 10 and enter. And then we're going to go up 50 and enter. And find the middle by clicking on the edge and coming across 30. And then from the right hand side clicking, typing in 30. There we have it. Now I'm deliberately going to make a mistake here. I'm going to deliberately draw this rectangle on here without selecting the component. And you can see straight away it doesn't even let me draw a rectangle properly. But then I can't retract this. It's letting me come out, but it's not letting me create a hole because I didn't select the leg. So let's select the leg, double click. Now it's editable. Pick up this rectangle tool. Draw on the guidelines in that middle. And use the push-pull tool to click, drag backwards, click again, type in 10, enter. Mouse pointer, click in mid-air to deselect, and then delete those guidelines. Alright, and there we have our A-frame with mortise and tenons. So that is the mortise part of the joint. So you would know from in class that we use the mortising machine to cut those out. So it makes sense that the hole for a mortise and tenon joint is always called the mortise. That's what we have, a 10mm deep mortise there. Okay, here's the best part. I think we have to draw the other side from scratch. We don't. We can simply copy and paste this. So what we're going to do, firstly, we're going to make that a group. So we're going to highlight the whole lot with the mouse pointer. I'm going to right click. We're not making this a component. They're all separate components. What we're going to do is make this a group. So now it selects as one big group of 4 components. And what that allows us to do is to select it with the mouse pointer, press Command C for copy, click in mid-air and press Command V again. There we have another one. Now, I'm going to click on the orbit tool just to face in the right way. Now clearly those mortise and tenon joints need to face each other. So what we're going to do is pick up this move tool, highlight over the top. We want to rotate this around. So you'll see on the top of this, the move tool will turn into the rotate tool, as I explained before. The plus sign, we're going to move that around 90 degrees. So 180 degrees, but our finish, as you can see in that dialog box at the bottom, is 90 degrees or minus 90. So I'm going to click. We're happy with that. mouse pointer on mid-air, and they oppose each other. Beautiful. Now, we want to get these exactly the right distance apart. So, we'll have a look at the plans here. You can see on the plans that these two A-frames need to be 300 millimeters apart from each other. So what we're going to do is drag this A-frame, drag it all the way. So again, we're going to use this whole idea of point to point. I'm going to drag this bottom corner right over so they're married up next to each other like this. When they're like that, that's our starting point. We can get the move tool. We're basically going to click on that group, the right hand side, and move it in that direction. So we can move that anywhere. What SketchUp will do is if you get it to somewhere in the ballpark, you can see it does that red dotted line, and what that means is that's going to move that second A-frame along the red axis or directly, well, what's the word? Moving it horizontally, directly along that red axis. So we want to keep moving that, and we want that to be, so we can click and type 300. What that means now is that A-frame, those two A-frames are directly 300 millimeters apart from each other, directly in line with each other as well. Which is good, that's what we want. Alright. Now, we need to draw our, what are we calling these? Let me have a look, can't remember. Lateral rails, not lateral rails, lateral rails. So that's these ones here. So those dimensions for these lateral rails, 320 long, 70 wide and 18 thick, same as the others. The beauty of these is all four are exactly the same. So once we draw one, we're going to be able to copy and paste it for 3 times to draw the others. So nice shortcut. So to draw this, I'm going to draw that over actually in its own little space here. Pick up the rectangle tool, draw an open space here. We're just going to draw the base, which is going to be 320, comma, 18, enter or return. And then we're going to use the push-pull tool to select 2D shape, pull it up, click and type in 70. Enter. Alright, now to draw the tenon on each end, again we're going to use the tape measure tool. From the top, we're going to come down 10 millimeters. From the bottom, we're going to come up 10 millimeters. 10, enter. Because we want a 10 mil mortise in the middle, and the thickness of this timber is 18, we need to come in from each edge 4 millimeters. Now, in that example here, you can see the arrow is actually going along the red axis, which is actually along the length. So you need to be careful here and make sure that tape measure is actually going along that surface, not along a different axis. So it's going to be 4 millimeters from the right, and then we're going to measure in 4 millimeters from the left. That should, I'm just checking there. Yep, that gives us a 10 mil tenon. So what we're going to do here is draw a rectangle where our tenon goes. However, this time we're not going to bring this out. We're actually going to take this outside edge in. So pretend we're chiseling it. I'm going to click on the outside skin. Outside skin, is that right? Outside shape. And push it back in 10. Type 10 and OK. So we have a tenon. Select the mouse pointer here to get rid of the guidelines. And repeat that process on the other end. So, tape measure, 10mm from the top, 10mm from the bottom, and 4mm in either side. Now I haven't made this a component yet, in case you were wondering. I haven't made that a component yet. I don't need to double click on anything. I'm just going to draw that rectangle and then push pull. Click on the outside shape and push it back in. Click, type in 10, press enter. Right, mouse pointer, let's get rid of those grid lines. And we have a lateral rail. Now we need 4 of these. So what we're going to do is highlight the entire shape and make it a component. So 2-finger click, make component, type in lateral rail, and firstly we're going to put in the 2 lateral rails on the front here. Now we can't put it in yet because that's straight up and down, vertical and horizontal. We need to turn that on its side 5 degrees. So we're going to select that component, and remember we can use the move tool here. Just select over that end plane of that shape. Click on the plus sign so it turns into a rotate. I'm going to move that over 5 degrees. So we're going to type in this instance, we're typing in 85. Just to show you, if I undo that, if I typed in 5 degrees, it's going to go all the way down here because that's running as SketchUp's thinking that horizontal is 0 and vertical is 90. So if that doesn't make sense, just take my word for it. But from this point, it's 90 degrees upright. So we're going to click on that. To move it 5 degrees, we actually have to type in 85. All right. Now, what we can do again is this whole idea of point to point. Now, I'm just going to drag that somewhere near where I need it to be. And this is really a matter of orbiting around, so it makes sense. But what we need to do is actually get this this tenon into this mortise. So we need to click on a corner, which is going to allow us to do that. So when I zoom in here, I want to pick up this corner. So I'm going to click on it. I can't see the other one at the moment, but what this allows us to do is to pick up the orbit tool. And I want to marry that up with here. So I can orbit, and then pick up the move tool. And it's still selected. I'm going to move that, pick up that corner. It's hard to see. There's no other real way of explaining this, but that corner that I selected first is going to marry up with that part. And as you can see, that is married up. Now, to repeat that process, we're going to need another lateral rail. So, beauty of SketchUp. Don't have to draw it again. We're going to click on the bottom lateral rail. We're going to press Command C, Command V to paste. And again, we're going to drop that somewhere in the ballpark. I'll do the left-hand side this time. So I want this part here. I want that part right there. That end point or that corner. Click on that. Orbit around. So I can actually see where I'm putting it. I want that to match up with this part here. Get back onto the Move tool. And you can see that I'm going to match up right there. Alright. Excellent. Now, right at the moment, that's sitting a bit proud, but we're going to fix that up in a second. Well, let's fix it up now. So, bit of a revision of what we did before. If I just simply click on this top rail and edit this top rail, so double click into an edit, whatever edit I do to this top rail will happen to the bottom rail. So to avoid that, what I need to do is click out of it, click on that top component, two-finger click, and make it unique. Press make unique. Now whatever edit I do to this won't happen to the bottom one. Very important. So what I'm going to do here to cut this off so it's nice and smooth at the top, is click on the component, double click. I'm going to draw a line from that intersection to that intersection. So where the two shapes intersect, it creates a shape here. I'm just going to zoom out so I can see everything here. Now I'm going to push pull what I've just drawn. So that shape there, push pull all the way to the other side. Again, I can use this line here as a reference as to that's how far I want to go. And click. Pick up the mouse pointer, click in mid-air to deselect. And you can see that's given us a nice smooth top, nice uniform top. So when we actually put the top of the seat on, it's going to marry up nicely. Now, I'm going to select top and bottom rail, and because I want them to stay the same, because I'm going to just basically, I need to reflect that over this side. I'm going to make that a group. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Pick up the mouse pointer. This one and this one. Select both and call make group. Okay. Now, from flattening that out, that's going to make it a little bit easier. We're going to copy and paste that. And then obviously this is the wrong angle, but what we can do is simply use this move tool, highlight one of those plus signs on the top, and simply rotate that around 180 degrees. It will snap to what we require. And as we did before, I'm going to select this corner. Select the orbit tool where I can actually see the joint I want it to go to, which is this one here. back onto the move tool. It's still got that corner selected, and I'm going to bring that corner to that one there and drop it in place. Mouse pointer, click on Open Air. And we have the A-frame stool, complete with mortise and tenons. Now, if we want to look at how that looks with the mortise and tenon, actually see the hidden detail, we can go to Styles and we can go to some default styles. And then at the moment we're looking at this picture, right? So we can click on different styles, it will change. So if we click on the second one, call that wireframe, you can actually see the detail of those mortise and tenons. If this were made out of glass, for example, see all the detail of that drawing. So we can change our styles, so depending on what background we want certain things, we can change it. And we can add shadows and things like that, which we won't get into right now. But we'll just keep that to the default style, which is this one here. Oh, shaded with textures, I don't mind that one in the middle there. Right. I'm trying to select what we had originally. I think that was it. I can't remember. That's not going to matter. Alright. So that's what we're looking at in terms of the main frame of the stool. Drawing the top. I'm just going to get rid of that window here. Drawing the top. Have a look at the pictorial. Essentially we're going to draw this as one piece, and then we can colour it in, etc. If we're doing different laminating different coloured timbers together, we can change those colours afterwards. So we'll just draw this as one piece. So we'll look at the dimensions. The top needs to be 375 long and 265 wide, a thickness of 18, so 375 by 265. I'm going to draw a rectangle on the bottom here. 365, double check here, 375, pardon, 375, comma 265. Yes. Then use the push-pull tool to give it some height, being 18. Type in 18 and enter. Now, what we want to do here is you can see that there's a little chamfer on this. So a lot of people are putting a little chamfer around their top, give it that little bit of finesse, I guess, at the end. Now, doing a chamfer, or any shape really, use a thing called the follow me tool, but we're going to put just a little 5mm chamfer. So to do that, I'm going to use the rectangle tool. There's a few ways you can do this, but I use the rectangle tool. I'll type in I'm going to draw a little 5mm, 5 by 5. Type in 5,5, press enter. Little 5mm rectangle. And that essentially gives us a reference point to be able to draw a line between the two, or one diagonal that goes like that. Have a good look at that. That's what we want to draw. And use this eraser tool to get rid of some other details. Oh, don't want to do that. So you want this line coming across. So that's a 5mm chamfer, meaning from this corner we've come in 5mm across, 5mm down, and drawing a line. So effectively that's at 45 degrees. We call that a chamfer. Yeah, really cool SketchUp tool here. I'm going to orbit out so I can see this properly. It's called the Follow Me tool, which you'll find here in the large tool set. So Follow Me, essentially like push-pull, but it allows us to go around corners. So I'm going to pick up the chamfer, so that small part in the corner there. Click once, and then I haven't clicked again yet, I'm just going to follow that around. That's why it's called Follow Me. I'm going to follow it around that entire shape, and then bring it back right to the corner and click. So a really cool tool that's allowed us to put that chamfer around the entire seat. Now, as I said before, if we want to do different coloured timbers, we're going to have to do a few lines here, meaning generally, as you can see, SketchUp is intuitive. It's picked up the midpoint. I'm going to click once, draw a line down the middle. This is to show our laminated timbers. And then we might go another midpoint, so that's now a new midpoint between the midpoint and the edge. I'm just going to let it snap to those midpoints and draw a line. And then what I'm going to do is actually draw down on that chamfer along the edge. Make sure that's going in a straight line there. Oops. So I'm just drawing some lines on those edges that go straight. Can then continue those lines underneath. And then there's many ways to do this. This is just the way I'm doing it at the moment. Drawing some lines and then finally matching them up. Now we haven't done any of this yet. However, what I can do is I'm going to use the paint bucket tool, and you can select a whole range of different things. So the paint bucket tool, mine defaults to some real textures like timber. Yours may default to the paint wheel. So if you can see that, what you need to actually click on at the top is this brick. So we're looking at texture palettes. Click on that brick, and then on the drop down menu you'll see a range of things. So if I wanted to make this look like brick or concrete or whatever, there's a whole range of things I can use. Landscaping materials, glass, etc. But we're going to click on wood, obvious reasons here, and what we're going to do is select a lighter pine type colour, like plywood, for example, and then colour in these pieces. So you're just clicking on the shape. See if this one's a bit better. That one looks a bit more timbery, doesn't it? So I'm going to colour in all the pieces. Those pieces anyway. Underneath. And then we'll go darker timber. Give it some kind of contrast here. Go underneath. Just have to orbit around a little bit to get all the surfaces. There we go. Have your laminated top. Now, on the stool, get the paint bucket and go back to that original colour, which is the top left. Because these are components, you can see we can just do colouring and it will colour the entire component, so that's nice and easy. Colour that entire stool. Now, with this top, we haven't made that a component yet, so again, just to prove that we need to make that a component, if I try to use the move tool here, it's going to do all kinds of weird stuff. So if yours does that, get your mouse pointer, highlight your top, 2-finger click on the trackpad and make that a component. Call it top. And we're good to go. Now, again, we're going to use this whole concept of point to point. So I'm going to pick up this point and I'm going to drop it on the top of there. Now that's not in the middle, but basically what that does is it gives us a starting point to then drag this top so it's in the middle. Now, just going to double check what this overhang is. So right there we have 36.7 millimeters, which is a bit strange, but half of 36, let's work with 18. So to get this top on the middle, going to get the move tool, and we're going to click on that surface and move it directly across to the right. And make sure it goes on green axis there. I'm going to type in 18. So that now places the top with an 18 millimeter overhang on either side. Just going to check what this overhang is and do the same thing. So that tells me that's 39 millimeters. So I'm going to have to move that across to the right. If the overhang's 39, we need to go half of 39, which is 19 and a half. So I'm going to move that across, make sure it's on the right axis, the red one in this example, and type in 19.5 and press enter. Right, now we can get rid of our tool sets and have a look what we've drawn. And that's it, that's how you draw the stool. Another handy thing to be able to do is to add some shadows, give it a bit more realism. So if when you finish this and you want to take screenshots, etc., it's pretty easy to add some shadows and things. You can go to Window and go to Shadows. And by clicking on the Show Hide Shadows, you can show a hide. So obviously to start with, you can get pretty technical with this. Or you can go time of day. Essentially you kind of just use it by a bit of, you can move that around. The date. So generally if we go somewhere like around June or July, that gives us a pretty good shadow line. Go longer shadows depending on the time of the day, you can have a bit of a play with that. Gives it just that sense of realism. We can have really dark shadows. Adjust the dark and the light part of shadows. And we definitely want to use sun for shading. Not sure what you want faces and on ground. It gives that realistic kind of look. And that's how you kind of render it. Before you take a screenshot as well, just going to close that box. You'd want to get rid of these axes guidelines, so you can go to View, and if you click on Guides, nope, not Guides, Axes, that will get rid of those axes lines, and then you can orbit around, maybe like that. And to take a screenshot, you simply press Command Shift 4, which turns your mouse pointer into, and then you can select, hold that down, select, and that creates a photo of your drawing, and that's then what you can submit to Google Classroom as your task finished. And that's how you draw the Year 9 stool.